them.
Just out of curiosity, how many personnel do they employ?
Three.
Three,
Yeah,
okay.
3 full-time employees.
Yep.
So, when you look at that, and then you look at the cost of all the chemicals, the cost of all the sludge hauling, the cost of, you know, a lot of stuff that they do to operate, lab testing and stuff like that is all included, so.
Mhm.
It's, it was quite a bit of an increase than what we'd like to see, but I think fortunately we'll be able to absorb that and keep moving forward. Engineering and legal, unfortunately, we don't use those too often, and it's a smaller amount. Training, use some of that. Loan administration fees, again, outside of anything we have control over. Same with insurance. Annual infiltration and inflow year, so we don't really spend that down to zero. Meter purchases, that's a fluctuating number based on how many meters need to be replaced or get bought for new construction, so that fluctuates as well. And again, we have the sewer capital outlay, which is one of the larger line items that is there for kind of one-time, larger, non-recurring expenses, such as large pumps or anything else that happens to need to be replaced within the treatment plant.
Mhm.
We'll do that under the capital equipment. Fortunately, we have enough user charges to offset our operating expenses, so we are self-supportive here. We've been very fortunate with the users that we have, that we've been having retained earnings every year, and we, as you know, at fall town meeting, we've been putting them into the sewer stabilization fund, so that's continuing to grow to help us offset any future capital needs.
Mhm. Out of curiosity, do we know what the value of that is?
2.2?
I think it'll have more, yeah, around here.
2.2 million,
Yep,
ballpark.
yeah. No, but that just means that a large emergency you could cover if you needed $1 million pump.
Yes.
I mean, basically, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep.
We'd rather plan and do improvements
Mm-hmm.
than do repairs, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yep. Okay, anybody got any questions of Pete on?
The operations increase, you said it was 3 years now, so that price has been locked in?
Actually, we changed our term to a 5-year initial contract with 2 5-year options. So this price is locked in with increases for the next 5 years.
Okay,
If we decide to stay there, or if the climate, if the current business climate changes 5 years from now and prices seem to be coming back down, we can always go out and rebid it at that time.
yeah, great.
So we have a
But your
little bit of
contract
flexibility.
Is locked in for the
For
next
five.
five on a percentage increase of
Yes.
whatever for each year.
Yeah,
Okay.
based on CPI, and they use some other index for the garbage and wastewater industry. That's a little bit different than CPI, so.
Yeah.
And how many years did you go without an increase before this? Because you were locked in?
Actually, when Veolia came in 5 years ago, it was about a $100,000 reduction from what they were paying previously in 2016. So we actually received, 5 years of lower costs, so that might be why this hurts a little bit more. Because we went from Woodin and Curran at one amount, Veolia came in, and when they did their proposal, I don't know what they left off, what they forgot to add, but they were about $100,000 less. And they held their price for that term of that contract, so I think that's why you're seeing such a big delta now also, is it's kind of getting us back to probably where we should have been all along, but we were fortunate that we didn't have to be.
Mhm. Maybe that's why the other companies didn't do it, because they
Didn't,
saw
yeah.
how low you were before and said,
Yeah.
we can't go anywhere near there.
Right.
Yeah, good point. Good. Any other questions? All right, there being none, Pete, thank you very much
All
for
right, great.
explaining your budget and coming all the way out. You probably drove a half hour to get here for a 10-minute.
About that, luckily, I don't have to do that. Have a nice night.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. All right, so we're like 20 minutes ahead of schedule for Bay Path, so I'm assuming that they knew they had to be here for 7, so they're not.
Yeah, I think they had like a school obligation, so they're coming in after that.
Oh,
It's something to
okay.
do with the kids or whatever.
Yep. Oh, so we might even see him after 7:30, you think?
7:15, I think they had said
Oh,
when I
okay,
called, so.
okay. All right, well then, good, because then we'll just jump to number 4, all right, and do the review of the budget. And then once they come, we'll be done.
Yes. All right, so in front of you, you have a little budget explanation with 3 options, and then you have an expense budget packet. So mainly, the three differences I laid out on your packet, but option one, what we did is I took the school's original budget that they had sent to us and took the middle of the three option scenarios that they had given us, and I just budgeted to that number instead of the original high number they had asked for, so that's why you see the,
Can we just
Big
back up
reduction.
just one quick
Yes.
sec? The reason why we have options, okay? We had a balanced budget given to
Correct.
us a little while ago. You all know that, okay? It was and then the school department gave us one that was $300,000 out of whack. That's why I just want to make sure everybody understood that at this point, okay? Sorry. Ashley.
that's okay. So that's what I did for option one, so that's why I said that's the most conservative option. Now, mind you, that's still a 5.6% increase in just the operating from FY '22. Option two, when I had talked to you, Hank, the other day, I know you wanted to leave the police officers in there, so I didn't cut either of the two police officer positions that we had added. But what I did is I said, okay, well, I took the two part-time requests from the Council on Aging and Town Clerk. I left the school requests at their, obviously the high number that they had presented to us at the last meeting. I dropped the stabilization funding that I had at 200,000 down to 100,000 for FY '23, and then figured we could fund whatever extra we wanted to at town meeting in the fall. I also did, which I didn't note here, I did change the HR contract obligation line because we are in the process of possibly negotiating with one of our unions that I had put in for a 2-year amount into there. So as long as we can settle with them in FY '22, I can drop that line item down. But if we don't settle, obviously I can't really drop it down. So did drop that down a little bit. And then I did probably go to our max with local receipts, which is the number that I can play around with. It's like our meals tax, motor vehicle excise tax, so like I have some, I guess, wiggle room in there. We usually like to budget conservatively, and I can only go up so much per DOR standard, so this would be like my max. So, and then just to note that the school increase from FY '22 would be a 7.63% increase. And then for option three, I left everything the same from our balanced budget, and I topped out still the same. I maxed out our local receipt number, and then I just I cut the stabilization funding completely out of the initial budget, so we'd have to fund whatever we wanted to in town meeting in the fall with free cash. So obviously, that's still the same school number there.
And top out local, yep.
Yeah. So that's the difference in the three.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Ron, go ahead.
So does option three leave in the positions that option two cuts?
Correct, yeah, option
All right.
three left, so the original balanced budget we had, everything's still the same, so I didn't take anything out. I cut the stabilization funding, so that would be the only difference between the balanced budget that we had originally to this one.
Right, but the balance budget we had originally did cut the dispatcher and,
Correct, yes.
right, so,
Oh, so
yeah,
it's on
it's
top
not
of
all
that.
four of
Right.
the police.
Oh.
Yeah, so police had asked for 4 positions, I funded 2. And then I think town clerk had asked for a 25-hour position, but we cut it down to a part-time position. So I think we did a 15-hour position for both COA and, which I think COA asked for 18 hours, we cut them to 15. So those were my initial cuts, so those are all still the same. And then I think fire had asked for a part-time admin and that paramedicine program. I cut the paramedicine program funding out, but I left their part-time admin. I think that was the only new request for people. Obviously, we cut the floater, because that was in there, we had taken that out.
And the fact that it
And
was
the
cutting
custodian.
that dispatcher and the other
Right.
was when, in my conversation with Ashley, I said, personally, okay, and if you guys want to change it, leave at least 2 of the police officers in there,
Right.
okay? Don't cut all 4 police positions.
And
I
that
didn't-
was,
I
the
didn't feel
police
that was
chief
prudent.
asked for 2 officers rather than an officer and a dispatcher. I gave him whatever option he wanted. His order of wants was the 2 officers, a dispatcher, and then a lieutenant.
So he prioritized.
Yeah. Because originally, I think he wanted a dispatcher first, but he came back and changed his mind, said he wanted the 2. He has no reason to add another dispatcher if he doesn't have an officer.
Yeah.
So he'd rather the 2 officers.
Okay. And one other question, if
Yeah.
I may. The 7.63% increase based on our funding last year. That's the 7% on this side of the house.
Yes.
Yes,
Right?
correct,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
So obviously Dudley's would be more than the 7.
Right, right.
But this was the number that the school brought to us at the last meeting, so all their cuts that they were making fall in line with that. So obviously, if we went to the 5.6 number, which is
The first one.
their original middle increase, obviously that would be more cuts for them.
Yep.
But we also can't we have to still fall where Dudley is, so from my initial talks with them, we'd be in line with them at the first option.
Now, one of the things that Ashley and Andrew had done this year that we've not done in the past, okay, was put money into stabilization, which we usually do in the fall.
We haven't done it in a couple years, in the, at May town meeting, funding with the revenue budget, we haven't done it in a couple years, we've been doing it in
Right.
the fall.
And you guys had a reason for saying, well, let's try it in this year's budget?
Yeah, we like to try to keep that percentage at where we're at versus increasing the budget but keeping stabilization the same. Right now, we're at 8% of our total operating budget in stabilization. Our goal is 10. So rather than just not funding it and lowering that down to, 7 or 7.2, because our budget's increasing, we like to try to keep that 8%, and then hopefully if we have excess in the fall, then we could try to creep closer to 10%.
Right, because remember, we did get dinged when we went out to bond to bid for bonds in August of '21. We got re-rated because we went out for a long-term debt. So when you go out for long-term, you get re-rated by S&P Global, and they rated us. And one of the dings we got is because our goal is to have 10%, and we don't have 10% in stabilization. So we did get dinged for that. So we will at some point, probably next year, be going out for the $2 million for the landfill cap. So that will be another long-term borrowing. So at some point, we're gonna have to get re-rated. So if we had the 10%, maybe we could,
Pick up a
Go up,
percentage,
yeah.
point or two, okay.
so,
We'd like to go to AAA at some point.
yeah. Yeah, right now we're a AA plus, so, which is obviously still good, but
Yeah.
we'd like to be better,
All right.
so.
So that's actually, the 200,000, actually more than what we would get in fall town meeting, because it's our goal again, and I brought out our goals. We kind of committed to 10% of free cash, which over the past few years, 1.3, 1.4, so always somewhere in that
Right,
range. So actually going up and above, right, which I can't knock, right, unless we start having to cut positions too drastically.
Right.
That we get away from the fall, kind of thing. So that middle one cuts it down from 2 to 1, right?
correct,
Gives
yep,
us
so we'd
a
still be funding
proposed-
some, and then in the fall, obviously, we'd like to do the capital projects first, and then whatever we could put into stabilization, we can put more in. But that that middle option did cut it from 200 to 100,000.
So we have 3 options in front of us, right? And we're gonna take a vote here on, or discussion here on which option we would like to recommend. The way I'm understanding this, we're gonna recommend that to you. You're gonna then take that budget, take it to the Board of Selectmen, say this is what FinCom has said, and then on April 13th, we'll hash it all out if we have any disagreements or whatever, okay? So, let's discuss the 3 options, okay? Who's in favor of, does any one option stick out to you?
I
or-
have a question first, Ashley.
Yes.
Is there any updates from the school on how many positions they'll be cutting with this level, if this level goes approved?
If we go to the 5.6, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
No, because I don't know. I
One thing
believe,
that we're kind of still waiting on too to see is where the Senate budget comes out. Because
Right.
if they adjust regional transportation reimbursement, that's going to give them more revenue and less cuts that they have to make.
Right.
So I think that you'd probably see a revised budget that may take into, Dudley's position into account probably within the next 2 weeks.
so I don't know exactly how many. I know it's obviously going to be more than what they presented to us because the number's decreasing, so I would assume that they would be, I don't know, they were already cutting, was it 6 positions, I think he said? So it would probably be maybe upwards of 10.
Can I ask another clarifying question? On option 2, and I'm sorry if you said this and it just got lost in the mud, the stabilization funding, what percentage, dropping down to the 100,000, what percentage is that
So because the revenue budget would go to about 3.4 in option two, 34 million, so we'd want to be at like about 3.4 in our stabilization. I think we're about 2.5, I want to say so we're about 2.5 million.
Yeah.
So we'd be down to probably 6-7%. I don't know off the top of my head how much that is, but because our revenue is going up we were at 32 million in 22, we're going to go to 34 million. So obviously the 7.5-8% we're at now is obviously going to go down because the revenue budget's going up, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So the 10% original, when we did that back, when did we do that? Back in 2019. 10% was, I remember it comes out of the state, there was a state record or something, that's their recommendation, that
Yeah.
every town try and meet this.
Yeah.
So we set that as our own goal, okay? Yeah, we don't have to get there within a year or 2 years or 3, but we tried to maintain this total accumulation over the years to get to the 10%.
It sounds like that could be that AAA aspiration though,
Right.
too.
Yeah,
Right.
so there's obviously other factors to it, like having a lot of commercial growth and
Mhm.
things along those lines that they wanted to see. But they did point out that because that's one of our financial policy goals, and we don't meet that standard, that it was a ding against us.
Yeah, interesting.
Now, there's always the hope, too, that come November, when our free cash is certified, maybe in the interim, we picked up, I don't know, big building fees or whatever, okay?
Mhm.
That we could hit $2 million of free cash come, and then we can do another 200,000 or
Right.
something.
Right.
Right, so I mean, there is always the fall, so we don't have to fund it now.
Right.
But because we had the capacity to do it now, we figured, this was obviously back when we were balanced before, but because we had the capacity to do it then, we wanted to, so.
I know this is a hard question to answer, but what's the savings to us to go from a AA plus to a AAA, roughly?
Probably be a, let's just say, 0.2 to 3%,
Really?
of a percentage on your
Yeah,
interest.
Yeah.
And you'll get more banks to bid.
Yeah.
So only certain banks will bid.
If you're below a certain rating, you'll,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, think of it as like going from a 30-year mortgage down to a 15, or down to a 20-year mortgage.
Yeah.
You're just gonna get that little bit more of a bump.
Yeah.
So where we'd really have to take an analysis of it is, what long-term debt do we have coming in the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? And that's where I would like to get us together with the Board of Selectmen, and let's look at a 5-year, okay? We've got a pretty good 5-year capital plan in front of us, but let's factor that in. What if we could get 2, okay? How much
Yeah.
would it save us? And maybe putting an extra 200,000 saves us 300,000 over the next few
Right.
years,
Right.
you know?
I'm sure we can assign a dollar value to either side,
Yeah.
yeah?
And my guess is, okay, that new accounting program that we just installed can do all of this for us.
Yeah.
I was actually just gonna look it up. I was putting in some aspirational
Yeah.
factors into there to see kind of like what we'd be looking at for long-term debt based off of our larger capital projects.
I do have to give you the heads up too. A lot of people are coming in with new capital numbers because of the market.
Costs.
So, yeah, I've already gotten 3 increases.
Yeah. Well, because they've then gone out and said, oh, that piece that I wanted for $50,000 is now
Yeah.
$60,000?
Yeah, just giving me the heads up. Like, I know the dam, was it Glen Echo? The dam that we have on for fall,
Mhm.
that's gone up. Fires, which his ambulance will come out of his receipts reserved.
Yeah.
So that has gone up,
Okay.
which means the other vehicle he's asking for has gone up, and I want to say one more person came to me and said their stuff has gone up too.
Okay.
So just been giving him a little heads up that
Yeah.
prices are increasing.
Kyle, Irene, we're going to continue this conversation until 7 o'clock. I put you on the list at 7, we'll start you right at 7, okay? I just don't want us to think we'll talk around you. All right, so we've got these 3 options, right? We've got some questions on option 2. We know what option 1 would do to the schools, all right? Any questions on option 3, all right?
Questions between option 3 and 2.
Yeah,
I might be misreading this. There's $100,000 difference, stabilization,
Yep,
right? And then there's 2 part-time positions.
correct.
But the 2 part-time positions are not worth $100,000, are they?
No,
No.
30,000.
Yeah. So they're, I dropped the 100,000 out of the third option, and then obviously I increased local receipts, so I increased a little bit, so if you look at the updated school number column, so it's like that middle column, it's $150,000 in the hole. So I have updated a little bit of the local receipts there, so it's about 50, say between 40 and 50,000 for the part-time positions and the other cuts that I made, and then the extra 100,000 comes from the stabilization cutting.
So I'm putting a fine point below like $50,000 on my question.
Yeah.
That's a good enough.
So,
answer.
I mean, obviously, if you guys have other suggestions, this is just the ones that I thought of. So if you guys have other suggestions too, I'm open to those. This isn't like our only options, but, so if you guys have other suggestions or anything that you'd like to see, I'm up for those as well.
Well, my impression is that the town clerk needs their assistant. But say we go with this, but then Dudley's numbers force us to drop ours. Would we consider going back and filling that town clerk's assistant position?
As long as as long as we're above zero.
Right.
Okay.
And as long as the
That's a-
Board of Selectmen supports the additional headcount.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a
'Cause-
very good point you make,
Yeah.
because Dudley really kind of dictates what we can and can't do
Right.
in terms of just for
Yes.
school, so.
And I don't want you to think too, so, I mean, they might not be dead in the water too if they need help. We did fund a summer intern program. We do have senior workers, so if for whatever reason Dudley could come up to these numbers and we had to cut positions, we'd help them try to find other options if they do need help in their office. They're just not SOL, like, so if they do need help, we'll try to help them find other options. We can take on an intern, try to get them some help. Maybe something during their busier times, try to get someone to come in. So we would try to get them help. They're not just dead in the water, so.
Between the 100, between the 100 and $200,000 stabilization, about how much could we adjust that number and maybe hire a one-year part-time contract temp for the town clerk?
I mean, I don't know how much that would cost, so it would be something we could look at. And just fund, if you wanted to fund like 150,000 or something. Like fund something in the middle, you're saying? Yeah, it's something we could look at.
Well, if that's the route that you want to go, and it sounded like, John, you liked option 3 because you don't want to cut that option 2 position, okay?
I've just, the town clerk,
Yeah.
to me, was
Right, but
the
if,
most
but
important.
if we all agree to go with option 3, we get to keep the town clerk
Mhm.
position, okay? Yes, we don't put any into stabilization, that's where the money comes from, I mean, basically. But my feeling is if you feel that you could do something on Jay's suggestion, right, when we come back in April,
Right,
we could always, and Ashley comes back and says, hey, look, we've got another 30 grand, 40 grand, whatever.
yep,
We could then put some money back into stabilization.
right,
We got to leave this meeting tonight with one of these options approved, so that they know where to go forward with.
yeah.
That's my point.
And Andrew mentioned that the state numbers aren't in yet. Will we have those by April 13th?
Well, that's the question. Yeah, I think it's more from the school side to know how it's going to affect regional transportation. Historically, the governor has been conservative when it comes to regional transportation percentage, and I think it's 70% reimbursement this year. And there's talk about trying to get that number to either 85 or 90%. So that may offset the school's, revenue figures, which they could essentially have the same budget but reduce our assessment.
I know I'm picking, but what's the difference between 70% and 85%?
Probably $200,000.
Wow, that's significant.
But when they came to us last meeting, they said that they had budgeted 90% reimbursement,
Mm.
right?
Oh,
So
okay,
if they're
okay.
really only getting 70,
Right,
We're going the wrong way.
right,
Wrong direction.
right,
right. If the governor changes his mind, they're only recouping what they've already
right.
put in.
Figured
They're
for,
gonna
okay.
get what they budgeted.
Yep.
Okay.
And technically, they're supposed to get 100%, but they never do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so if I can take a straw poll before I entertain a motion. Who likes option 1?
Any hands?
No, nobody likes option. Who likes option 2? All right? You make my life a
Yeah,
lot
right.
easier. I'll entertain a motion, we accept option 3, recommended to the finance director.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A second. Any further discussion or questions of Andrew or Ashley? Instead of saying Andrew or Ashley, can I just say the 18?
There you go.
It's easy.
Double meaning.
Triple 18, right?
Yeah, right?
Gotta find another ace.
I know, seriously.
No new positions.
No.
Any,
We'll have to make
any,
one
any
change.
any further
Make one
questions?
change.
All right, so we have before us a motion that we will recommend option 3, that the finance director has given us to move forward. Okay? All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. I vote yes, it is unanimous. Got that, Jacqueline? Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll cut this down so you only have the department request and then your option 3. And then I'll give you, the revenue budget isn't obviously updated to this number, so I'll update the revenue budget so they match. And then I'll put them both in the Dropbox.
Yep.
And I'll share them with Andrew so he can give them to the selectmen for their next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ashley.
7 o'clock, round it up.
Yep.
7 o'clock.
Perfect.
Time for Bay Path. How you doing, Kyle? Very well.
So I have it up on the screen. You just press the arrow, it should, that's my hope, it should work. Can everyone see it? Do you want me to tilt it? Can everyone see?
Can everyone-
They might have a little bit.
Yeah, just a hair.
Is that good?
Good evening.
Good evening. You want to introduce yourself to the committee?
You bet. I'm Kyle Brenner, Superintendent Director of BayPath, and this is Irene Poole, the new business manager at BayPath.
Hello?
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
So thank you for having us this evening. We'll present. There we go. Excellent. All right, so the adopted budget is based on funding from House 1. Chapter 70 and 71 estimates are based on Governor Baker's proposed state budget for the coming fiscal year. Our proposed Chapter 70 funding for fiscal year 2023 is $12,893,681, which is just over a $1.3 million increase over current funding. Our proposed Chapter 71 funding for FY23 is $809,158, which is a $243,339 decrease from the current funding. And again, these are preliminary, they're based on the governor's budget. We always hope they'll move up once it moves through the House and the Senate. So what is the impact on BayPath? This slide shows FY22 and FY23. So our Chapter 70, again, is just over $1.3 million increase. The minimum contribution is $144,409 increase over FY22, which brings us to a just over $1.4 million increase for the required net school spending for FY23. So again, the FY23 total budget for assessment is $25,899,604. Our member town assessments are at the minimum. And our budget includes a debt service assessment of $1,561,753. Our operational budget does not require funds above the minimum contributions from our member communities. And our member assessments are at $12,090,417. Although the assessments are at the minimum, it's important to note that the minimum contribution levels have increased by $144,409. And our member towns transportation assessment, again this year, it will be reduced by $234,995, reflecting the use of our regional transportation reimbursement fund that we set up a couple of years ago. So this just shows the highlights. Again, the total Chapter 70, our school choice assessment projected for FY23 is just over $178,000. Chapter 71 busing aid is $809,158. And we have a $30,750 sewer betterment fee. This will be the last year for that sewer betterment fee, so we're happy to see that disappear after FY '23. And we propose to use $50,000 from our E&D to continue funding our OPEB liability. This just breaks down the budget summary. Again, Chapter 70, just over $12.9 million, $12.8 million. School choice assessment of $178,627. Our assessment and minimum contributions is just over $9.9 million. There's no assessment above the minimum. You see our OPEB transfer from E&D for a total operational budget of $22,741,274. Our transportation budget, you see the Chapter 71 of $809,158. Our total budget projected for next year is just over $1.5 million. So if we take out our transportation reimbursement fund of $234,995, that will leave an assessment of $521,674 for our member towns. Debt service, we're really happy. I think this should be the last year, and then our principal will be, our interest will be lower than our principal. The principal is $775,000, and our interest is $786,753 for a total debt service assessment of just over $1.5 million. And there's our sewer betterment fee for a total budget for assessments of $25,899,604. School choice of $178 brings that to $26,078,251. So our budget highlights are, for textbook supplies and equipments, we'll be getting new textbooks for social studies. This is year 2 of a 2-year program. Science, we'll be getting new textbooks in 12 of our shops. And we've also included costs in there for necessary replacements for lost or damaged books as well. Our supply and equipment accounts are adequately funded to account for inflation, although the state caps that at 4.5. We've seen quite an increase, as Ashley?
Yes.
Ashley said, all the towns. So our lumber for carpentry and cabinet making, the welding rods, the gas, everything has gone up. So we've accounted closer to 7% increase for our supplies for our 23 technical programs. And we have several large equipment upgrades for our shops in advanced manufacturing, auto body, auto tech, computer-aided design and drafting, graphics, metal fab, and our programming and web dev. For staffing, we're going to add a full-time adjustment counselor. Currently, we have 1,200 students. We only have one school adjustment counselor. I'm sure you've heard that there's been an increase in social emotional referrals due to COVID and the return to school. So this will cut that in half and get it to a much more manageable caseload for our school adjustment counselors. We're happy to add a second veterinary assisting teacher to our new program. It's a great partnership with the Second Chance Animal Services over in Southbridge. We started that this year, and the second teacher will allow us to double the capacity in that program going forward. And we're adding a full-time...
Superintendent, do you have a waiting list for that program?
We do, which is great. So the first year in, we've already got probably 20 students on a wait
No
list.
kidding.
Right, so next year we'll be able to add to that, and hopefully the year after, another teacher to get that to a full bill program. Yeah, right out of the gate, I kind of anticipated we were gonna have, big draw to that
Yeah.
program.
Excellent.
In our electronics shop, we're adding another teacher in there to bring that to full program. Previous years, we saw a drastic decline in enrollment, and that necessitating a reduction to one teacher. We had a great exploratory, doubled the capacity in there, so we'll bring that back up to full capacity as well. We've included wage increases for our union and non-union employees, and I'm happy to say, again, knock on wood, we have not had an increase in our health insurance, but we did include some increases in there for new enrollees, the new teachers, as well as every year we see some spouses being added on and so forth. Student supports, we have significant programming from the Student Opportunity Act for increased social and emotional outreach and professional development for all our teachers to identify and do the referrals. We've increased offerings for MCAS preparation and remediation, and increase offerings to help students struggling in classes. So we're targeting our highest need students to close that gap between our general population. FY '23 freshman seat allocation, district agreement includes that the enrollment is set on the capital populations of our 10 communities. Total capital population of our 10 communities is 17,687. Charlton's is 2,096, which accounts for 11.85%. And when we multiply that to the 330 available seats for freshmen, that equates to 39 seats for incoming freshmen next year. And our foundation enrollment, so again, for FY '23, one more additional student. We are at our capacity of 1,200, so you'll see that number staying pretty stagnant in the next few years. Projected 209 students enrolled from Charlton, and that's a 9-student decrease over the previous year, so a negative 4.31%. And this is just the Town of Charlton Foundation enrollment. So every student that Charlton has a financial responsibility for. So Town of Charlton has 1, Dudley Charlton 1,745, Bay Path 209, for a total of 1,955, which is a 32 student decrease over the previous or current year. And these numbers come right off the state's website, the 2023 required local contribution. So FY '22 required contribution is $13,558,786. The municipal revenue growth factor is 1.68%, and the FY '23 preliminary required local contribution is $13,786,574. Added increment to the local contribution, there's a little kicker on there, is $135,588. For a total required local contribution of $13,922,162. So we look at the foundation budget, Town of Charlton, just over 15,000, Dudley Charlton is just over 22 million, and Bay Path is just over $3.9 million, for a total of $26,131,112. So the Bay Path percentage is 5.23% of the total foundation budget for Charlton. So we use that 5.23% and 15, thanks, Irene. 15.23%, which is a 0.88% decrease over the current year, FY '22. Bay Path's required contribution is just over $2 million, $2,120,395,000, which is a $64,416 decrease from the current year. I bet you don't hear that often.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Is that okay? So if enrollment slightly decreased, why is there a wait list?
So we have 10 towns. And enrollment for our school decreased because of the number of seniors that are graduating. So there's a higher number of seniors graduating. And so based off the district agreement, what was it, 39? So we can only take 39 students. So we add that to the juniors, sophomores. And that comes out to the, flip back to the total. So there's a decrease because there's probably a higher number of seniors graduating. Right.
Than incoming freshmen.
Incoming freshmen. Right,
So
so if there's 39 applications, I don't know off the top of my head how many, 39 seats available for Charlton, I don't know off the top of my head how many Charlton residents actually applied.
oh, okay, that's what, I don't need that number. But the other thing that was jumping out at me was the school choice number of 178,000. So are those seats included in the 39, or is that on top of?
No, so the school choice are, and Irene will keep me honest on this one, Those are students from our district who most likely school choice to Tantascwa in the 8th grade or 7th grade. And once they school choice in, they're a Tantascwa student. They have the option to enroll in the high school and stay with their cohort of students. If they're from Southbridge or Charlton or one of our districts, we're responsible for that. So that's the school choice. But
Okay, so
that,
that's a negative sending number?
yes.
Okay, I didn't know,
Yep.
okay. thank
And
you.
that's primarily who it is. Students that go to Tantascwa.
Right.
About 25, 24,
Yeah, something
25
like that.
students that go over
Thank you.
there. Sure.
And they're choosing to go to the Tantascwa Vocational School.
Right, that's, yeah, that's
If
the
they
key
were
point.
choosing just regular Tantascwa, that wouldn't affect us.
That would be Dudley Charlton.
Right, but
That-
because they've chosen
right.
the vocational portion,
Because we're the
They're ours.
vocational
I
option
get
for
it.
the,
Yep.
our
Alright.
10 towns.
Thank
But
you.
Thanks for adding that. So this chart just shows our 10 member towns, the minimum contribution, and Charlton's portion is highlighted here, so Charlton is $2,120,395, no assessment above the minimum. The capital population, or our foundational budget is 209 students, which equates to 17.4% of our total 1,201 student population. We use that and multiply it by the total transportation assessment of $521,674. Charlton's portion is $90,783. The capital population is used for debt service and capital improvement. So 2,096 of the total 17,687 is 11.85%, which equates to $185,076 for the debt service and $3,644 for the capital improvement, for a total assessment of $2,399,897. And this just shows the comparison to FY '22, and again, a decrease of 34,258, or a negative 1.41%. Questions?
That's a lot of numbers you threw at us, and Irene, congratulations on your Excel spreadsheet mastery. That's quite the program.
I got one other
Yeah, go
little
ahead.
question. The $1.3 million increase in chapter 70
yep,
over last year?
yes. So
What is
what-
that as a percent? Is it
the-
10%?
About 10%.
10% increase in
Right.
chapter 70.
The reason for that is when they were building the budget, the state made the determination that all of the vocational schools
Yeah.
were going to get larger increases because they felt that they had been traditionally perhaps somewhat underfunded, and underscoring the importance of, CTE education. We just came tonight from our advisory meeting, and one of the statistics that we were explaining to all of those lovely people who volunteer to be on our advisory committees with our programs is that they're anticipating, was it 6 or 8 million? 8 million, 8.5 million jobs, wanting for skills.
Skilled labor.
So we're trying, that the state has made the decision to, buttress as much as possible vocational education. So that's why we're getting such a big increase.
But usually, chapter 74 is funding from the state, right?
Not for us. Chapter
Oh, okay.
70 is aid given to the schools. Chapter 74 is when a comprehensive high school
Oh,
adds a
brings on
couple
both.
of programs. And so you get extra money from Chapter 74 because your comprehensive high school has some Chapter 74 programs running in it.
All right, my mistake. Thank you.
No
So
problem.
it's a
It gets
10%
confusing with all the numbers. It's like, number soup.
I was just baffled because I don't think I've heard any other, you read the paper, right? There's no other school saying they're getting a 10% increase in chapter 70,
Yeah.
right? That's very good.
No, but I've been reading, and across the state, okay, there is a lack of skilled people, okay? And the governor and lieutenant governor made a big push a couple of years ago to start pushing more voc, okay?
So does it translate into more seats, or how does it?
It translates into more seats through the addition of innovation pathways and after-dark programs.
Okay.
So our capacity is limited by the building and they're not gonna be putting on a new annex anytime soon up there, so.
Oh, you
we're
just
limit-
got one.
We did. We did. They are, so MASB wouldn't allow for large increases of square footage prior to just recently. Now they're adding, square footage to the new vocational school build so that they can increase capacity. Statewide, there's close to 4,000 students on wait list for vocational education. So they are making incremental increases to that, but that's where, Governor Baker's administration made a conscious effort through their capital skills grants, hundreds of millions of dollars to add programs or unique situations where we could put more students in the situation, education, vocational education to get industry-recognized credentials.
Yeah, there wasn't the wait list to get into a vocational school years ago.
No.
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 And that's a big change, I think, that all vocational schools have seen. Kids want to go now.
Yep.
Right.
Kids want to go. Anything else of Bay Path? I mean, there's not really a lot we can do with your budget, other than try and understand it.
Right.
Okay? And at times I get lost too, and Irene, thank you for your guidance and laying it out well for us.
So
Ashley,
I will
again?
give credit where it's due. This is Dean's presentation, and all I did was punch in the new numbers for this year. So I'm not going to take credit. I didn't create this format. My predecessor did, for those of you that knew Dean Yakabuchi. But thank you, and I'll make sure he knows.
Yeah, do that.
It works very well.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. And welcome to Charlton, okay? I know I've already said it on the
Yeah.
other side, but welcome to Charlton, and we look forward to working with you for many years.
Yeah,
All right?
I'm looking forward to that as well. I love Bay Path. My nephews were graduates some years ago.
Mhm. And some of you may know, I'm involved with Bay Path also. I've been part of the Education Foundation up there and seen the good work that vocational school has done. I think Charlton should be very proud of having Bay Path in its town.
Absolutely. No, we work very well with
Yes.
the town.
Yeah, yeah. that's good.
Absolutely.
Well, if we're all done, I'll thank you both for coming in.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again next year when the time comes.
If you ever have a question on how things were calculated or anything, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. I'll be happy to answer them, or try to.
Yeah. Thank you, Irene.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you.
You too.
How's your mom?
Good. Retired.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Coming back from Florida today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Good for her. That's awesome.
My whole family works at
All right. So we voted, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask?
Yeah, I
These
had-
two, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
For the last several years, we've level budgeted gas and diesel.
Yes.
So if prices remain elevated going into the next fiscal year, are we adequately covered?
I think we had left it at level, but we increased overall,
Is 150?
yeah, we had increased overall utility costs, but we didn't increase that line. I believe we're projected at what? 30% under?
Yeah.
So
Whatchamacallit?
we were about 30% under budget at our last projection. So, we'd be closer, kind of closer to the belt, but I think we're still comfortable that we could stay under the
Yeah.
under the
Hoping when we-
budgetary
Yeah,
number.
hoping when we go to bid that the numbers don't skyrocket. Maybe by the time that comes, maybe the gas prices will go down.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
concern, yeah.
So, usually we get pretty good rates kind of like comparatives, so.
Are we looking at an electric infrastructure investment specifically for fleet?
We did,
Do you have any suggestions?
we were looking at a hybrid cruiser.
Yeah,
I don't know where he's gone with that.
Yeah, that we had gotten a $5,000 grant through DOER to supplement the difference in what the cost would be between traditional gas and a hybrid model. That's the extent that we've looked at, but I know that capital-wise, we've gotten kind of more and more requests from our other inspectional services is replacing our, I think, 2002 Ford Taurus that we have out there with something a little bit newer and not just a rehash of another cruiser. So I think that was one thing we were considering is what options are out there, whether or not there were any electric incentives, because we do have the, we have the charging station out front here with 2 spots that is seldomly used.
Let me see, just leveraging my professional contacts, if there's any programs or anything we can
Yeah.
connect the town.
Because we have a lot of, like, there's more departments coming and asking for cars. Like, I know Board of Health has mentioned they want one. I haven't seen any requests from them, but there's more. And we have more issues with some of the cars that are out back because they're old.
Board of Health,
Yeah.
Assessor, Conservation,
Yeah.
they have cars, but they're either recycled cruisers that already have 100,000 hard miles plus on them, or were specially bought 15-plus years
Yeah.
ago.
It's hard because a lot of them sit, so if they sit for too long out there, they're all dying.
Yes.
So if we could have something we could plug in out there,
Yeah, got the chargers.
yeah.
Good point.
I'll look at it.
But we did look, I think he was looking at hybrid cruisers, so just the market now is hard to get vehicles, so.
One question I have on the American Rescue Plan Act. I know that there's unallocated money. How does that get allocated over time?
So the board, it doesn't require a town meeting vote to allocate. Essentially, the CEO has the official ability, which would be the Board of Selectmen, to allocate those funds wherever
Okay,
best needed.
all right. Does everybody see that document? It's in the American Rescue, where it's been allocated? Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering how that, because that never came up as part of our discussion. I mean, it is a good place for you to supplement programs that we can't fund.
Yeah, I think we had started the initial conversation with a draft to you guys. This was 8 months ago
Yeah, I'll say a
or
while
so,
ago.
and then it was brought to the Board of
This goes back to
Selectmen.
October.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry, October. So it started with you guys, and then it was brought to it was kind of redrafted a little bit, brought to the Board of Selectmen, pared down a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Okay, all right.
there is still excess funding to be
Just a curious
allocated.
question. Anything? Yeah, go ahead, John.
We still have another month to go, but we good with snow and ice?
Break the bad news.
Yeah, so I talked to Highway Monday, Tuesday, what's today, Wednesday, either Monday or Tuesday. Right now, they're in the hole about 120 grand. We're gonna be close to 2 by the time they're done, because they're still waiting on bills and the final salt bill, which obviously is expensive. So there goes all of our free cash that we had left, which I was hoping to hold on to for the fire issue over time, but, so that's gonna pretty much eat all of our free cash that we had left. Because they're at like 199.9.
It wasn't an exceptionally rough.
We had a lot of ice, which is expensive because salt is expensive and the salt prices were,
Yeah.
salt and sand, I mean, it gets expensive afterwards. It's not, the labor isn't usually where that, like, if I get 2 bills for salt, that could throw me over 50, 60
Yeah.
grand. Like, that's expensive, so.
Wow.
That's what, she's waiting on, like, I think 3 salt sand bills to come in, so.
Wow.
It was like another 30, 40 grand.
No, because I'm like you, I equate inches to how much we spent.
Yeah,
that's what
everyone-
We only got about this many inches,
Yeah,
okay?
I said
Why
the
did
same
we
thing
spend that
too,
much
but,
But it was an oddly temperatured year. in
yeah,
terms of-
the
yeah.
ice killed a lot of it, so.
Yeah.
And we've been relatively, say, conservative with the amount that we
Right.
start with our budget number, so it's not very hard to go over.
Right.
We're usually mid-January by the time we're already deficit spending.
So I don't know if you two know or not, but we have to budget at least what we budgeted the previous year for snow and ice, because legally we can run that in a deficit, and then we could raise it for next year if we needed to. Say we didn't have free cash, and you can raise it for the following fiscal year, as long as you budget at least what you budgeted the year before. So that's why we never decrease, and it's hard to go up because you can run it in the red.
Right.
So
No, that makes sense.
that's usually where we don't usually have to touch it, because we always budget the same, so we're allowed to run that account in the red. There's only certain ones that you're allowed to do that with, and that's one of them, so.
Okay.
So, but I have enough in free, I think we have about 212,000 left in free cash, so that will eat pretty much all of it, so,
Okay. All right.
so.
One more.
Yeah.
The capital stabilization account we established,
Mhm.
we're building that over a few years, we're not touching that?
Yeah, we have no
Right.
intention
No.
of touching that. We want to put
Yes.
more into it, especially at the next special town meeting, once free cash is certified.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah, our goal is to try to, because that also contributes to, I can add those two amounts together with our regular stabilization to get to our 10% goal. It's not just 10% in one, we can add the two together.
How much
To have
did we
it-
put in that?
We put
250,000.
250?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I can add the two of those together to get to the 10%,
All right,
so,
so that's something, yeah, when we take a look at the capital budget, yeah,
Right.
what that's allocated for.
yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just send a reminder out to all the departments to get me close to final, if they have any changes on anything. I know I've heard from a couple already, but I'll re-update the capital plan you have out there.
Mhm. Good.
So I haven't had any new requests, it's just inflation costs, yeah,
Updated ones. Okay.
so.
Ashley, can we include the schools in that? Because that's where,
So I've
that's
asked,
where we're gonna get killed.
yeah, so I've
The what?
asked
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
the schools.
The schools, between the feasibility study, the roof, the potential MSBA, ultimate, Shepherd Hill renovation build, like that right there, you're talking, I mean, literally, you're talking $30-40 million potentially.
So I've
I just
asked-
think we did that. I'm sorry. Ashley.
That's okay, I've asked, Rich for a debt service schedule, but I don't think they have one. So I think their plan, from what I
End of April, they're supposed to be coming back in to
Yeah,
present what their
that's
actual
okay.
debt service plan is for the roofs.
Right.
And hopefully a game plan as to how they plan to attack the MSBA program. And in our draft capital plan, I've kind of built in the debt service, at least for those two projects, just as a placeholder.
Yeah. So just kind of estimating if I took, because there's a debt service calculator out on the state website, I just kind of took that and plugged in like a high, to at least get the roofs, I have no idea about.
Yeah, that's.
But it's on, we have it as a play, I just have
Yeah.
no idea how much.
Yeah, I just think, Hank, like, when we have that conversation with everybody, that we have to at least assume the possibility
Yep.
that Shepherd Hill is gonna have a significant renovation or a build. And if it doesn't happen because the towns don't want it or we don't get accepted, different conversation.
Right.
But that's the elephant in the room that we're gonna have to talk around when we think around long-term capital.
Yeah.
So I wanted it in a debt service schedule so I could plan to show the selectmen and finance committee what it would look like if we did it within the levy limit and what it would look like if we had to debt exclude it.
Yeah.
So once I get those, I'll deal with the forecast, but
Yep.
Stop being reasonable, you're working good.
I know. So once I get those from them, I can add that in there as well, but that's obviously,
No.
We're gonna have to figure that in for-
We've got so many different flying pieces here. okay,
right,
That we might have all the pieces to the puzzle, we don't know what the picture looks like.
right. So
Okay.
I have our numbers in there at least, and then we're gonna go out to bid this year for the tanker truck that we got for the fall.
Right.
And then the landfill caps on the,
Yep, that's still preliminary
Yeah.
engineering.
so,
Mhm.
nothing for that yet, but those are the
To go
two.
back to your point, that's why it's important for us to get to the 10% at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Right.
It can save us some money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
All right.
I'd like to try to put that with something, because the more money you usually go out to the bond market with to go for long-term, the more people you get to bid on you, because they don't usually like the small stuff, they like the big stuff, so try to put as much together as we can. And it's obviously less expensive for us in the long run, so, than having to go out, because we have to pay every time we go out for long-term borrowing. So if we can bundle some together, that
The
helps.
hard part is keeping the long term in your head and not just worrying about the short term.
Right.
The short term is cheaper.
Right, right.
Yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
go long term.
Yeah, so we're gonna go out to short-term for the tanker when we go out for all the other short terms. I think it's usually April, May timeframe, so it's coming up.
Good. Anything else? Anything you guys wanna bring before us?
What's that? No, he wants to have him come.
Okay, next, okay. I just want to see,
About
confirm
fire.
that the fire chief is going to come and
Oh,
present
okay.
his
Yeah, yeah.
overtime
So I'll have
issue.
him come in for the
No,
for the April
we wanna
13th
see him
meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay.
And our next meeting, good segue, is April 13th here and we'll be meeting jointly with the Board of Selectmen. Okay?
So if, the warrant will be closed, obviously, by then, so if we can have, if we have motions and everything by the 13th, we can, if we want to bang it all out in one meeting, we can. If
Yeah.
not, if you want to meet the,
Yeah.
like, 2 weeks after the, I think it's like the 30th, because I'm on vacation in between, so.
In between what, now and the 13th?
No, the
Oh.
13th meeting, and then the week after the 13th, I go on
The
vacation.
week
so-
everybody else gets vacation.
Yeah.
School vacation,
Yeah.
wait.
It was very hard. We sat down, and we were looking at when,
I demanded that she take
Yeah.
her vacation.
he's like, pick this week. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so you will have some updated numbers in the Dropbox by what, the middle of next week?
No, I'll probably have it for you tomorrow.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, I had to just
All right.
update the revenue
So if I print it
budget.
out one more time, that should be my last time. I mean, I get stacks
I
and
know.
stacks.
It's gonna go to the Board of Selectmen right after
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah, so I should have it for you tomorrow,
Okay,
if not Monday morning.
yeah, I just want to know that when we meet, that we're all looking at the same, that
Yeah.
what they
Oh,
print
yeah.
out is what we got.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll bring you a packet.
I know you are.
I know it's just small, I'm sorry.
All
Try not
right,
to
there being
kill
nothing
too
else,
many
I'll
trees.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, second. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. I vote yes, it's unanimous. That is a meeting at 7:37. Good meeting, guys.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
You got it, Bill. Looking forward to it.